All right, thank you, Matt. We're going to get into our service and our text. And like you guys know, we do have a special, opening series for our service. And it's called The Secrets to Happiness That No One Tells You About. I did not come up with that. One of our pastors in Elgin, Pastor Daniel, he comes up with these titles. But I think it's something that I was kind of thinking about and reflecting about. And as I was going through Scripture, it's like, wow, what the Bible has to say about this is so, upside down and so countercultural. And so I'm really excited to kind of delve into this, and I'm really praying that you'll be open to it. And so the text that we're going to land on is the book of John, okay? Book of John, chapter 5. We've been covering it in this past semester, but we didn't cover this chapter, and now we're going to circle back into it. And I don't know if you know this about John, but John is one of the most structured books of the Bible. And so I think the closest thing that I could think about was this movie, Knives Out. So you guys have watched Knives Out, right? And so I've only watched the first one, and I was very skeptical about this movie, but it just caught my attention, and it was so fun. And I remember watching with my friends, and I was just mind blown. But basically, if you think about this movie, and I don't know, wait, have you guys all seen this movie? Yes, it's a thing, right? Okay, great. So basically, I think I didn't realize, but every scene has this purpose that it serves in that movie, and then all of it kind of at the end of the movie, they do this whole flashback montage of it, and you realize, oh, that guy is a killer, and that guy's a criminal, and everything gets woven together into this ridiculous narrative. And so even the most random scene, where that grandma's looking out the window and she says something random, is intentional. And so there's an intentional structure to it. And I don't know if you know this, but that is actually true for the Gospel of John. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, there's something very straightforward about those Gospels, which is almost like a linear narrative. But John's Gospel is not. He orders and places very specific events, very specific moments in Jesus' life, so much so that there's an entire study of the structure of John, and they've come up with some general things about John, all right? John only has 7 miracles in his entire book. 7 miracles, and they're all intentionally chosen for a purpose. There's 7 I am statements that Jesus says about who he is. And then John is divided into 2 halves. The first half is called the book of signs, and that's where all the miracles and a chunk of I am statements happen. And then the second half is when it slows down and it just gets into that Passion Week part of Jesus' life when he goes to the cross. So book of signs, book of glory, and he intentionally structures it for one purpose. And he actually makes it very clear to us in John chapter 20. Now, Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples. So then he's saying, look, there's a lot more that I could have written about, but I didn't. But these are written and intentionally structured. What's the goal? So that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. And so John's saying, look, hey, there's a lot of other miracles, but I chose these for a reason. And as I was thinking about that intentional structure, it made me ask, why did, of all the signs that he could have put, of the many, many that Jesus did, why this miracle that we're about to cover today? Why this sign? And it's the healing of a man at the pool of Bethesda, an invalid. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up to you guys. In your tables, you're going to read John chapter 5. All right, John chapter 5, verses 1 through 17. And I think you should have those on the handout as well. And you just need to try to figure out what the point of this miracle. Why did John put, of all the miracles he could have put in, why did he put this miracle? What was the point? What was he trying to show? Why this sign? So I'll give you guys about 7 minutes or so to do that, and then we'll gather back together.
There is in Jerusalem by the sea pool, Aramaic, which is 5 verses long. Jesus said to him, get up. And at once the man was healed and he took up his bed. Now that day was the Sabbath.
Hi guys. Hello. Oh, it's just okay. Check it. Okay. All right, let's gather back together. All right. So hopefully you got into the text. Just up front, when I was studying this, and as I was remembering, like there's a structure to John, and there is a very specific reason. It was kind of hard for me to unpack, and I think it's because like when you read miracle and sign stories, there's like a part of it where you're kind of relating with the person that the miracle's done on, right? Like the bleeding woman, the shame, the guilt, and then that touch, and then being known and the freedom of that. It's like, wow, I could relate with that. Or even like the centurion, like if you just say he's going to be well, then he's going to be made well. And there's something about that that resonates. But when I read this text and this guy, it may sound mean to say, but just first reading of the text, you don't really like this person that much. And it's because here's a guy that has a once-in-a-lifetime meeting with Jesus, and his first response to Jesus is, hey, do you want to get well? No one takes me to the pool. Okay. Heals him anyway, get up and walk, and then he gets brought before the authorities. Who did this to you? I don't know, it's that guy Jesus, blaming again. And then finally at the end, Jesus reconvenes with him and says, hey, you're well, sin no more. And then he goes immediately, to the Pharisees and tells on Jesus. So it's almost a self-preservation, blaming, instinctive, natural response that he has. And it's like, oh, I know he was an invalid for 38 years, but I don't really like him that much. And so then, like, how can I even relate with this guy? And so then it made me realize, like, oh, all the more, like, why this sign? Of all signs that he could have put, why did John put this guy with this sign? And I think on one level, I just had to do some work. Like, okay, at face value, it's really hard for me to relate with this guy. But once I kind of peel back the layers, this crusty, calcified dude that's just full of blame and bitter, I realized, wow, there is something about his story that I could resonate with at a deep level. And I think the way to frame it is, I know this is going to seem really random, but it's like moldy bread, okay? So he's like this moldy bread, right? 38 years, an invalid with all of different things swirling around in his mind, his own blame narrative, his own bitterness, his own like unmet expectations about life. And that's for 38 years. And we don't know like 38 years if he was born that way or it happened midlife and it's 38 years later. But then it's almost like this, okay, he's at the last stages of moldiness, all right? But then if you just kind of do like a little time reversal and you go all the way back, this bread was not like this before, right? There was a moment where it probably just had one little blue speck on it. And I think as I unpeel the layers and try to piece together his story and what must have gone on, I was like, wow, okay. On that level, I could relate with him as I go backwards. And I think it served as a warning for me. Okay, if I continue on a certain trajectory, oh, this is how I'm going to end up. Because here's the thing, this invalid, man, he got dealt a bad hand in life, okay? So here he is by this pool, and he's thinking, the source of my salvation is literally right there. It's right there. If I could just get it, I could be healed. But then what? He can't, because he's lame, he's paralyzed, he's an invalid. And on top of that, this whole pool to get in order to be healed, there was a big, big catch that was involved. And it was not only did you have to get in, you had to actually be one of the first people to get in order to be healed. And so then, even at that point, I was like, wow, this text has so much truth about like our world and how our world works. And so then is that the point of the text? I think there is some truth. Like there's some truth in relating with this guy and even the commentary that it has about our world, because isn't it so true that this whole idea of you have to be first, it's just prevalent everywhere, okay? So it's even true in like materialism. Like I didn't, again, I'm sorry if I'm dating myself, but drops, I didn't know drops was a thing where even like buying things was limited and you have a certain window of opportunity where you have to be the first in order to buy something, in order to get it. And I looked up the most ridiculous drops that have, some of these cost more than $2,000. One of which is a Supreme fire extinguisher, and the other, which is so like ironic, it's called the Stash Bible. So it's the New Testament, but you put money in it, and it's labeled Supreme. Anyway, so these cost like $2,000. Apparently they retail for probably like $100, but then you have to be the first to get it because it's limited. Everything is limited. It's okay. That's kind of ridiculous, but like that's so true of life. Everything is limited. There's limited opportunities. There's limited job prospects, especially in an economy like ours. There's limited co-op opportunities. Even in romance, there's limited partners and all that stuff. Everything feels limited. And if you want the best, like you have to be the first. And it's almost akin to like, I don't know if you guys fly much, but it's like getting on a connecting flight. Like I have to make sure I get on that connecting flight, or else if I don't get on that connecting flight, then I'm gonna miss that next flight and the door is closed. And it almost feels like life is like that. You're on this rush to grind hard, to work hard, to get onto that first connecting flight, which is going to set you up for that next leg, which is in the end, that's the thing that I want. And maybe that's money, maybe that's romance, maybe that's nice stuff. Like there is this kind of aspect of our world that you have to be the first in order to get the best, which drives a lot of the grind culture that's so prevalent. And you know, back in my days, man, I sound old. Back in my days, grind culture was not actually that big. And I thought about why, and I think there was a moment of insight I had where I was in youth ministry before going to Purdue, and there was this guy who we're ministering to, not Christian, and he was a stellar basketball player. He made it onto his varsity team. I think he was basically like a starter, fourth guy on the starter, and senior year, so he was on varsity since sophomore year. Senior year, he quit. I'm like, why? Like, don't you love basketball? I do love basketball. Then why'd you quit? And he said, you know what? I don't know if you know this, but because he's on, like he basically told me this whole thing where because he's on Instagram a lot, he realizes, wow, my competition pool is pretty massive. And all these people are really, really good at basketball. And there's only a limited amount of D2 or D1 basketball spots in college. And so because I don't have a chance, I'm just gonna give it up. And it's this reality of like, wow, there's limited spots. You have to be one of the best to get one of those spots in order to continue on in that progression of whether it's success, career, money, romance. And if you're not good enough, well, for him, it's like, what's the point then? And I thought, gosh, that's so stressful because for me, I lived in the delusion that I could be an NFL pro player one day for a pretty long time in my life because my pool was the limited private Catholic school that I went to in middle school where I was actually, believe it or not, one of the MVPs on the team. And I thought, I'm gonna make it one of these days, but that got burst in high school. But anyway, but like, I just felt for you guys. Like there's so much pressure. There's pressure to work hard, to grind hard, to be the first. And when you look at this guy, you know, this invalid, we don't know like how much this, like, is it like full body or is it just like the legs or whatever it is? But one thing that we know that this kept him from was his ability to make any rapid movements, which is why he wasn't able to be the first into the pool. And to move fast, to be the first, isn't that capture, I don't know, a lot of your experience of college? Because here's the thing, you're at church, and there's a lot of things about spiritual life, Christianity, eternal life, true life, all that stuff that you hear. And I think at the gut level, you guys know, oh, this is important. There's some truth to it. I should probably invest in it. But man, I feel really pressed for time. I really feel pressed for time because if I don't make things happen within these 4 years, if I don't make certain things happen, then it's almost like I'm gonna miss my connecting flight or my connecting flight's gonna end up late on the other side and certain doors are gonna close. Like that's what life feels like. If I don't get a certain grade, then I'm gonna miss that next leg, which is the co-op. If I miss that co-op, then I'm gonna miss that first job out of graduation. If I miss that, then man, like my life is set up for, I don't know, how would you feel that? But at the very least, there's something very relatable about that in the college experience. But then I wanted to pose this as maybe an older person as a pastor should. Why? Like why this whole grind culture? And I think if you took some time to kind of pick at that, there's something that gets surfaced. And I think it's not so like revolutionary. And so it's what I guess my son Tyler is really good at these days, which is he's incessantly asking why. Everything that we do, why. And it's led to some really annoying moments, and sometimes it's led to deep existential moments in my life. And so you think about it like why. And it's so like apparently deep that psychologists have a name for it. It's called the 5 why practice. But basically it's like when you do something, you just got to keep on asking why and dig a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. So then let's say, hey, why are you here at Purdue? Some of you would say, actually I don't know what you would say, but maybe some of you would say to get good grades. I hope that's the case, right? Because all of you are students and paying big bucks for college education, so to get good grades. So then it's like, okay, why do you want to get good grades? So then I could get a co-op. Why do you want a good co-op? Well, I need that internship in order to get a good job after graduation. Well, why do you want to get a good job? Well, that's going to be like good money, and it's going to set me up for my future job, which is going to get me even better money. Why do you want to do that? And you on goes down the line. And here's the thing, if you do this with almost everything you do, not like everything, but most like significant things that you do in life, it always comes down to a couple of answers, which is something like happiness or fulfillment, some answer like that, belonging, just something about living a satisfying life. And so then we think, though, that things like money or romance or materialism is going to do it. Like, that's why we do a lot of what we do. That's what drives a lot of what we do. And that makes sense. We want to be happy. We want to live a satisfied and fulfilling life, which is going back to the main, I guess, premise of this sermon, like, what is the secret to happiness? And I wanted to unpack that a little bit. But going back to the things like money, romance, materialism, here's the thing. You know, that invalid at the pool, he thought the source of his healing and the source of salvation was what? That pool. Now, the tragedy is that pool is completely fake news, okay? And why do I say that? Because apparently scholars have actually found this pool. So this text used to be at one point something that atheists would point out and say, look, the Bible is not reliable, like a 5-colonnade pool that doesn't exist. And at the city called Bethesda, we never found anything like that. And then they found it. And now Christians are like, wow, look at that, archaeological evidence. And I think if you dig a little bit deeper, man, archaeology generally always backs up what's found in the Bible. And that's the really cool part about it. But all on the side, okay? But this pool, it was fake news. And it's because scholars uncovered what the myth behind this pool was. And this pool was, there was an angel at this pool. And this pool would bubble up every once in a while. And when it bubbled, if you were the first person in, then you would be healed. Now that sounds cool and all. The only problem is they found out why the pool bubbled every once in a while, and it was because of the material that the pool is made with, which is limestone. And so every once in a while it would bubble. People would think, wow, that's an angel. Run, jump in, and then they would be healed. But then, okay, that begs the question, like, why would anyone believe that to be true? Like, why? It became such a big myth that there were, as the text says, there were a lot of people surrounding that pool, right? Why would that pool have become a myth that perpetuated again and again and again, so much so that it had so many people surrounding it? And it's because it's actually a self-perpetuating myth. Now, what do I mean by that? So imagine, okay, you're in this pool, and there's probably a variety of ailments. People like this guy who's an invalid who can't walk or move, people with really, really deep chronic health issues, but then probably also along the periphery are people with, like, hypothermia, I guess. I don't know about hypothermia, but like things like a flu or a pneumonia or like a chronic stomach ache. They're all wanting to be healed. And so they're thinking, if I could jump in, then I'm going to be healed. Now, once it starts bubbling, who's going to get in first? Is it this guy with who's paralyzed, lame? No, right? Of course not. It's probably that guy with the chronic stomach ache, because he's overall pretty still able to move and move fast. So he runs in, he jumps in, and if you imagine, if you're finally the first one out of this, I don't know how many people are surrounding this pool, but you're in, the adrenaline's pumping, and you come out of the water, yes, I'm the first one. And then you're like, now think of it from the perspective of the invalid that's watching. He's looking at that and saying, wow, it worked. But he has no idea if that guy had, like, he was paralyzed like him, or if he had like a chronic stomach ache, right? Now, what's sad is if the invalid was able to follow that guy, Mr. Chronic Stomach Ache, home, he would have realized after a day, after the adrenaline finally wears off, the guy's back on the toilet again, right? Like the stomach ache's back, it didn't really heal anything, but he wouldn't know. He wouldn't know because he can't follow him home. And that's so tragic because why? 38 years, he pins this hope onto this thing that's completely fake news. And he has no idea. And he's lost 38 years of his life pining after this thing. Now, a lot of you guys are young, and I just want to put this out there. Like, these are the kinds of lost years that I want to save you from. Hoping for years, thinking something's going to make you happy, but never getting it. And man, 38 years, can you imagine? Unmet expectations and hopes for 38 years. Of course this guy would end up bitter and cynical and blame. This so captures our world, right? To be deceived by these like snapshots. For this guy, it was in this pool, right? The stomachache guy just, snapshots of healing. And you think, wow, that must be it. Deceived by snapshots of healing, snapshots of happiness. And I don't know, our world is more inundated with this than ever before, even in my generation, just snapshots of joy and happiness. And you think, you look at that and man, that's the secret to happiness. That must be it. I see these little snapshots. But then I don't think I need to convince you of this. If you just dig a little bit deeper and you dig a little bit into their lives, you realize those are just snapshots that deceive. And that's not actually true to their life. And we get moments like that when really famous and successful and rich people say they're basically unhappy, right? So a couple of quotes. Marcus Pearson, who apparently created Minecraft and sold it for billions of dollars, Forbes billionaires. There he is. And he tweeted this, I think. Hanging out in Ibiza with a bunch of friends and partying with famous people, able to do whatever I want, and I've never felt more isolated. Or this quote I used from Fall Retreat, right? Scotty Scheffler, one of the most successful golfers in the world, has an ESPN article and an interview that says, hey, he won, but what's the point? What's the point of this? I'm not happy. It's not a fulfilling life. I mean, I guess it's fulfilling in the sense of success, but it's not what fulfills the deepest parts of my life. And he shared that in this interview after winning these majors. This is the trajectory of life that I want to save you from. Because the reality is you don't realize this until you're much, much older and you kind of go along that trajectory for a while. And maybe sometimes you don't realize it at all. Maybe one of the biggest mercies is getting what you want and realizing that it didn't make you happy. But then the most tragic thing is never getting what you want and thinking it'll make you happy, and you're always pining after this thing. And you end up like this guy, bitter, cynical. Tim Keller, pastor who passed away, but someone I looked up to a lot, he had this comment of people who hope for something and either get it and are disappointed or never get it and are just disappointed with life. He said there's only one pathway for that kind of person, and it's blame. And there's actually 3 phases of blame. He talks about how you can either blame the pool, you could blame yourself, and then you blame the world. So you blame the pool. You think something's wrong with this pursuit that I'm going after, so that must be it. There must be a different pool in life. And that's why you can go from pool to pool to pool, thinking that's the thing that's going to make me happy. And this can drive you for a long time, going from one job to the next, one city to the next, one romantic partner to the next. It's so much so that I recently read an article in the Free Press, and it's basically this letter that one of the readers sends one of the columnists, and the reader says, I'm 70 years old, I have a daughter with a bunch of granddaughters, and they all live near me, and they love me, and they want to be with me, and now you know what? I want to move to Israel and live my best life and manifest myself. What do you think? And then the columnist basically said, look, are you crazy? What you have is what many, many grandmothers want in their life. A daughter who wants to be with you and granddaughters who want to be with you, let alone a happy marriage, a stable life. Like, why would you give up everything? And then the response is, because I want to be happy. And I think that's what's going to make me happy. Like, you blame the pool and you go for the next pool. But eventually that doesn't work, so then what happens? You end up blaming yourself. Oh, something must be wrong with me. Something must be wrong with me. Either I'm not good enough or something's emotionally wrong in my makeup. It's just not going to work for me. And that can get really dark, which is what fuels a lot of the self-help that's out there in the world, right? But all of that falls so short, the self-help. And then eventually, when both these phases pass, the blame starts spreading and you just start blaming the world. And that's when you become like this invalid, a crusty, calcified blamer that can't escape out of his blame narrative, even though he just got healed. Man, when you peel back the mold and you get in a little bit and you just trace his story back, I'm sure he didn't want to end up that way. But putting your hope in something that doesn't satisfy, that doesn't heal, and for that long, it's inevitable. So then is that the point? Like, why this sign? Is it because, man, there's so much to relate with when it comes to the world and about ourselves? I think there's some truth to that because it is so relatable and there's such a depth of relatability to it. But I don't think that's it. Otherwise, it'd be a really depressing message, a depressing text. But again, what is the point of all these healings? It's so that you may believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and that you may have life. Now, how does this text do that for us? I wanted to highlight 2 verses that It's like one of those knives out intentional structures thing. When you read it, it's like, oh, whatever. It seems like a random verse, but actually has deep significance that unlocks the meaning of this text. And it's here in verse 1 and verse 9. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now that day was the Sabbath. And you're thinking, what does it have anything to do with our text? It just seems like a context setup, but actually it matters deeply. And why do I say that? It's because John has this very intentional structure, right? This very, very intentional structure. And in this part of John is this interesting moment. So Jesus enters into Jerusalem in a season where there are, many, many feasts and festivals. And Jewish people have many feasts and many festivals, and all of it with deep, deep significance and meaning that celebrates some aspect about God. And so then you'll get this from chapter 5 all the way to 10, and this is the first one. And the first thing that the text notes is it's the Sabbath, which is one of the biggest days. Significant, so significant to the Jewish calendar. And what is a Sabbath? For us, I don't know what that conjures up. I recently learned that there are different ways that Sabbath gets used. So if you look at your oven, apparently there's a Sabbath mode on the oven. And do you know why there's a Sabbath mode on the oven? It's because this day, Jews demarcated to say you cannot work at all in this day. You cannot have any creative work in this day, which includes apparently cooking. But they made these other laws which says if it's below a certain degree of Fahrenheit, you're not actually cooking, it's just ambient temperature. Again, Sabbath mode. But that being said, so then there is this whole association with Sabbath, and that's the day you rest, that's the day you don't work. And it's actually what God says in one of the 10 Commandments, right? You shall honor that Sabbath day. And so then why? Is it just like a random day of rest where you don't burn out and you could recuperate and all that? I don't think so. I don't think that's the reason. But there was this huge theological significance to this day. And it's this. In a world and in a culture where everyone else was grinding hard 24/7, because it's an agricultural culture, right? So you grind hard every single day, and then the more you grind, the more you produce. That's just the reality of agricultural life. In a world where everyone else is doing that, and trusting in themselves, trusting in their ability to provide, trusting in their produce and how much they're able to produce as their source of salvation and healing and happiness and joy and fulfillment, you're not going to do that. You're going to take one day and you are not going to work at all. And you're going to take that cost, I suppose, in production. Instead of a world of rapid movement where you're always constantly moving and grinding, you're just going to stop. You're going to slow down. And you're going to create space. And why? As a way to say, I trust that God is the one who's going to supply my every need. And He is the true source of salvation, healing, joy, fulfillment, and happiness. And Jesus comes in this day pregnant with such theological meaning. And He does this miracle of all places at this pool, which represents so much of that grind culture, and says, that's me. I'm the only source of salvation, healing, happiness, joy, and significance. That's me. You're looking at the wrong thing. That's me. And He turns to this guy and He says, do you want to be healed? And I think in turn, He's coming to us and saying, do you want to be healed? Do you want to be happy? Do you want to be content? Do you want to be well? So that you don't feel so anxious all the time, so stressed, so burnt out, so left wondering, is this going to make me happy? Do you really want to be made well? And the tragic thing is, this guy, his response is so interesting. Yes or no question. But he says, no one's going to put me in the pool. He's so fixated on that pool that he can't get himself to see that, wow, there's something that might be here. And I think that's true for us. Every week we come before God's word, and I think the invitation is so simple. Trust me. Trust me. Do you want to be made well? Do you want to be healed? Do you want to experience true life? The secret to happiness, that's me. Do you want to be happy? And our response is, yeah, I do, Jesus, but if only you could just blank. And that blank has something to do with, I don't know, our school, the context of our lives, romance, all that stuff. And I think that betrays us, and it shows us what we think is truly going to make us happy. Because here's the thing. What Jesus is asking for is, can you just turn your eyes away from that pool just for a minute? Stop getting so fixated on that and see that salvation can come from me. And that's the promise of Scripture. That's what the gospel is. The gospel is basically, hey, I died for you, I love you, I'm going to save you. And not only that, I'm going to give you eternal life, but what eternal life is not just like heaven, but it's everything from heaven until now. It's life that starts with Jesus now and lasts forever, and it's a life that just unfolds into greater and greater joy, greater and greater happiness. Like that's the invitation that Jesus is offering each and every one of us. And I think this goes against the picture that God is trying to take away. And he's not trying to take away anything from us. He's trying to bless us. You know, there's a Proverbs that I love, and it's one that I go back to time and time again. It's Proverbs chapter 10, verse 28. And it reads, "The hope of the righteous brings joy, but the expectation of the wicked will perish." What this proverb is saying, look, when you go after the things of the world, which is the wicked, like people who pursue anything else aside from God, like those expectations, they just fail you again and again and again until you perish. And part of that perishing is, man, this guy that is so filled with blame and cynicism is such a sad, crusty, calcified life. Like that's what happens as you get older and older, and all you do is pursue the things that the world tells you to pursue. And I experience this time and time again, especially when we go to like ECM and go to these convalescent homes to try to share the gospel with these elderly. Like you just meet this kind of caricature so often. The guy that thought something would make them happy, but here they are, and all they could turn to is some sort of blame narrative of why their life didn't work out. Like that's the expectation, the only expectation of the wicked in time. And maybe there's a time period where they look really like, wow, that looks awesome, but that's all fake news. Like that's the trajectory of anyone who puts their expectation in anything aside from God. But the hope, those who hope in righteousness, which is pursuing God, that's just a life of unfolding joy. Or as C.S. Lewis puts it, joy forevermore. It's just a life where joy gets erupted in these ways and it becomes newer and fresher every single year, every single day. That's the invitation that Jesus is giving us, to discover joy and to see that the world, their hope, it just falters until it perishes. And at this point, I wanted an opportunity where we could hear from some students about this, because it's not just a story that is ancient, but it's a story that's been lived out time and time again in my life, and I think in a lot of the mentors' lives, and I'm sure a lot of your guys' life. And so to kind of illustrate this, we're going to invite some of the seniors, I think they're all, and Ethan Jr., up, and we're going to have them share how they experience the truth of this text, all right? So it's going to be Aaron, Gracie, and Ethan. If you could just encourage them, I'm sure they're nervous, but they're going to share how they experience the truth of this text. And so why don't we do this? We'll just, you come in the middle. Yeah. We're just going to go, basic introduction, name, hometown, and then what you were like as a freshman, right? Or something like that? Yeah, okay, here we go.
I'm Gracie. My major is design and construction integration. My hometown is Lafayette, Indiana. And as a freshman, I came out of high school having severe senioritis. So I saw college as like a fresh start. I kind of wanted to break ties with all the people that I went to high school with, even though like 75% of them came here. And so, my mindset was like, I'm gonna make as many friends as possible and just like get the best experience that I didn't get in high school. I went to a Christian school as well, so I was kind of like in a bubble and kind of wanted to break out of that. So that kind of led to me, doing like the typical freshman activities, college activities like partying and things like that. So, I also, my community kind of came from joining a lot of Asian orgs. And so also because, hanging around them, we did a lot of, college activities. So.
PG rated, guys, college activities.
All right. Yeah. Hi, my name's Aaron. I'm a senior studying aerospace engineering from Newark, California. And I guess my freshman year, I was like pretty clueless. I also went to like a private Christian school from like preschool till 12th grade. Yeah. But yeah, it was like a really small school, like graduating class of 40 people. So like coming to Purdue, especially from like California to Indiana, was like a really big shift in my life. And so I guess I was like pretty clueless, just like what to do with my life and like just like making friends and meeting new people.
Hello, I'm Ethan. I'm a junior in statistics, and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. As a freshman, I was very, very timid, very shy, just in general, very risk avoidant about everything, and kind of unwilling to do anything that made me feel uncomfortable. Yeah.
So these guys are some of our student leaders, and I think they shared some of the fun factoids. Like Gracie's been here all her life, so it's funny that you thought breaking out would be going to Purdue, West Lafayette, but you know, to all their own. And then, Aaron, I did not know your graduating class was 40. That's ridiculous. Anyway, but his fun factoid is he has two older brothers, and they are actually postgrads, and they're all part of our church in different parts of our church. And apparently he's so if you know Aaron, he's kind of like, you know, not like the most like talkative person, but he apparently is the most talkative of his three brothers. And so that's Aaron. And then Ethan, he said he's shy and timid, but if you want to trigger him, he is from St. Louis, and he deeply hates the St. Louis Rams. So just say anything nice about the St. Louis Rams, and you'll get a really weird and different and probably slightly unchristian side of Ethan come out. And so that's that, all right? But we're going to have them share what were, I guess, the pools or the false sources of happiness that you guys were going for, and how that you came to the realization that it doesn't fulfill you. So we'll combine those two prompts, okay? So we'll start with Gracie, and then we'll just go down.
Kind of long. Yeah, so the one that I kind of pinpointed in my life was I chased a lot of romance later in high school and starting in college. I think, yeah, it kind of caused me to rush into a lot of relationships, and I didn't because I was rushing, I didn't take the time to think and reflect on if this would be pleasing to God. It was kind of just following my fleshly desires. So because of that, yeah, I found that it fell short a lot of times because rushing into it, I got into relationships with non-Christians, and even through that, I wasn't able to 100% commit to them because of my conviction of growing up in the church and claiming to be Christian, but I was kind of living this two-faced life. So yeah, I think through that, I learned that yeah, I just yeah, I kind of had a lot of guilt of how I was a poor representation of Christ. And so because also I realized through dating these guys, we didn't have the same convictions, and I wasn't going to be able to live the same the Christian life that I wanted to when they also didn't have the same conviction. Yeah, just not being online on that. Yeah, it fell short in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah, I guess I looked to fulfillment in kind of career in a way. I guess I wanted to go into aerospace because I really wanted to work at SpaceX. And so when I got to work there a year ago, it was kind of a dream come true. But yeah, it was really cool in the beginning. I got to go out onto the launch pad, go and be right under the rocket, and just see a lot of I don't know. It felt really exclusive. I got to drive a forklift. I got to yeah. There was also the private jet. I got to take that to LA. Yeah. I sat next to the VP on the plane. But yeah, it was just a really cool opportunity. But in the end, it wasn't fulfilling because at the end of the day, you're just another number. It's you're just part of a company. You're working, and it was I was working really long hours, working 6 days a week, 60 hours a week, and just I would get home from work. It was 45-minute commute both ways, And so just like getting home from work, like falling asleep on the couch, waking up and just going back to work. And it just ended up being like a huge grind, and like you end up just feeling like not a person, and just like being like just a worker, like slave to Elon, whatever Isaac says. But yeah, I think I really just looked to the wrong place for fulfillment. And it's like I really like, I guess, turned my back to God during that time as well. Like during the interview process, I had like really like prayed to God, like, oh, I'd love to have this opportunity. And when I did get it, I was kind of like, church was just like an afterthought. Like I still went to church there, but it was really just like routine, like go to Sunday and like leave church immediately. And so it was just like going there and like looking to that, working at SpaceX SSS, and then feeling like a failure there, especially like with such long hours. It really just showed me like there's more to life than like working or like chasing your dreams.
Yeah, so for me, I grew up in church, and I think I made my purpose and my identity just kind of being like the nice guy and making other people feel good. And that might seem like maybe noble at first, but really, it was very shallow because, so I've been growing up in church. I wasn't like righteous compared to God. And so where do you get this sense of like self-righteousness, like you're morally good? Well, you look to other people and you become morally good compared to other people. So like I became very judgmental and very competitive, where, for example, like say one of my friends, like he did something bad, like he just completely lied to someone. I didn't actually feel like bad for the person being lied to or for my friend, but I kind of like inwardly rejoiced a little bit because that meant that I was good compared relatively to my friend. And so I feel like I'm kind of an example how even like something that is good can just easily be twisted by like our sinful nature. And so basically like I'd be like this nice guy, this good kid, but it was just like a big scheme for me to like feel like all the things that people poured into me was justified and that I had value. And so yeah, and then that ended up being not very fulfilling because I didn't actually like, my relationships were more superficial. They're kind of a way for me to just like show myself as being good, very prideful. And as well as I think relying on yourself for your own value or purpose, it's not very stable because we can always change. And like whenever I would show myself to be incompetent in a certain area and I didn't feel like I was contributing value to people, then like my self-worth just like kind of tanked. And then as well as even when I felt like I was contributing to other people, there's always this kind of like lurking anxiety, like it's not going to last forever and I'm like not actually as good as I'm presenting myself. So like even in something that seems so good, it just completely was not fulfilling and was not meant to be the foundation of my life.
Then we'll start with you. Why don't you just share then how did you find the true source of, I guess, happiness and healing and salvation from faith and from Jesus?
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of counterintuitively, it's when my sense of self-worth and righteousness really plummeted. I feel like God showed me how even like in good things, I was very kind of manipulative. And it's when I was kind of like that lame man at the pool, except for like I thought I was like totally normal and I thought I could walk. So like the best thing to ever really happen to me was to realize that I was lame and that I was sick. And because it's at that moment when I kind of realized that, oh shoot, I'm not a good person, like I'm rightfully under God's judgment. It's there that I was able to find that like God still loves me and that like my value is not in what I can do, but my value is like purely in just his love for me. And it's only because God, I think, like struck me down so hard that his peace was also able to infiltrate my heart so deeply. And yeah, so now it's like I'm a lot more able to do something where I don't feel like I'm very competent or I don't think I'm good at. And I'm able to do that because I'm not relying on myself and I don't need to constantly reinforce that I am like valuable and worth it, but just that I'm able to rest knowing that my value is in something which is Christ dying for me, and that is something that can't be taken away. And it was nothing that I did to do it in the first place, so nothing I can do can take it away. And that's really served as a solid foundation for my life, and I'm able to, I feel like, truly actually love other people and care other people and not just do it for myself.
Yeah, I guess I grew up in a Christian household, so I grew up going to church, and so I guess I always kind of thought of myself as like kind of like the older brother from the prodigal son, where it's like, oh, I always like obey your God's commands. Like I haven't like outright rejected God and like gone off and squandered, but I think I really just find like purpose and fulfillment in Christ because it's like it's a personal relationship that you can have with God, and it's like things of this world, like career, money, whatever. It's like you can achieve it, but then kind of like what you said with the golf player, like it's still not fulfilling. But with God, it's like a personal relationship that you can always commit to, and like He's always there for you, even when you turn your back to Him. And He's really just like God wants to know you and like just like be with there for you. And so it's like yeah, just like finding purpose in that, in like an eternal purpose, and just seeing like lives change. Like I've been able to do course one-on-one with some people, and just being able to see them like grow as they like learn more about Christianity, and just like seeing their lives radically changed is, I think, what's really fulfilling about being a Christian and like knowing God.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm like the other son in the in the parable of the prodigal son. Yeah, definitely did some outright disobeying, and so yeah, I think kind of after like each time those like relationships or situationships per se fell short, I think I became like very convicted of that I need to like get closer to God. So like through that, I think every time I kind of told myself I need to go back to church. I need to get more involved. And so yeah, I think slowly I was able to just like start showing up to more things at a2f. And like through that, I was able to yeah, make really great relationships with just like other brothers and sisters here, and be able to, I think I was able to really gain a lot of accountability through that. Also being able to see their lives and how like God has changed them, and just like consistently following Christ really set like a stable foundation for their life, and it was like the life that I wanted to live. Also being more involved, I got connected with a lot more mentors and was able to gain a lot of wisdom from them. So kind of my yeah, kind of my heart goes out to anyone that is like chasing after romance. I've been there, and I think yeah, what I want to say is just if you're warranting advice from any of the mentors here, any other Christian mentors that you have in your life, just listen to them, just obey. It'll save you a lot of time. It'll save a lot of hurt. And again, like I said, I had a lot of guilt being a poor representation of Christ. So for the Christians out there, every interaction that you have with non-Christians is an opportunity to share your faith. And yeah, many times I did that very poorly. So yeah, I would just say obey and listen to people that are older than you. So yeah.
I did not prepare to say that. Okay, let's give it up for them. Thank you, guys. So, I don't know, because there was a lot that was said, and I think they were just trying to unfold like what the hope of the righteous is. I think it starts with things like peace and a secure identity, and then a purpose, as well as like just all the guilt and the shame that it just does something to us, like to get all of that forgiven and released. And so, and that being said, like with the whole even dating and marriage, I think all of that really, it's God wants you to get married. I want you guys to get married, but it all happens in His own timing, right? And so, just learning to trust in that, and even in that area, God blesses you in ways that you never thought. And so, why don't we do this to wrap up? Why don't we just turn to our tables and just share either something that struck you from the message or something that struck you from their stories, and then afterwards, I'll just wrap up and we'll sing our closing song. And that's how we'll wrap up our service.
Yeah, I think one.
All right, if you could wrap up your discussion, and if I could invite the praise band up. All right. So we're gonna wrap up with the song, but I mean, just my last application is like, what is, like, do you want to be healed? What does that mean? How does that like apply concretely? I think at its base level, I guess it starts with an invitation to salvation and putting your place the first time in Jesus as that source. And if that's any of you and you haven't done that yet, I really want to invite you guys to consider that. And I think secondly though, like, why do we do all that we do? I think like Nobleman or New Eve or mission trips or things like that. Is it because like the staff make money from this? No, they don't. They don't make any money. It's not like they have inordinate amounts of time and money to burn. It's because that's how we experience joy in Christian life. We still experience joy as we do it, and it's just an invitation to experience that joy. And so I just want to encourage you guys. I know college is, it's a grind. I want you guys to all do well and succeed in life and make sure you study. And please don't flunk out of school. That'll be bad, okay? But would you just consider creating space? creating that space to slow down a little bit from that rapid movement and consider that maybe there's something else to life than just what's in front of you that college puts forth. And I just want to invite you to that. Maybe just one small way that you could do that. Think about that. A way you could slow down and experience so much more of the joy that God has for you.